Welcome to the channel Coin Hustle USA, and before you scroll past or click away, I need you to stop whatever you're doing right now, because what I'm about to show you is the kind of coin that keeps serious collectors awake at 3 in the morning, hearts pounding, hands sweating, browser tabs open, bidding wars raging. Most people have held a silver dollar at least once in their life, felt that weight in their palm, noticed that shine, and then tossed it in a drawer or traded it for something at a gas station. But what if one of those silver dollars you casually handled wasn't worth $1, not $10, not $100, but a number so enormous it would make your jaw drop straight to the floor? We are talking about the 1895 Morgan silver dollar, a coin that has stunned auction rooms, silenced experts, and rewritten what people believe is possible when it comes to rare American coinage, because this single coin, this one, beautiful, seemingly ordinary silver dollar, has been valued at $310 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. $310 million. Let that sit for a second. And listen, before we dive deep into everything that makes this coin so extraordinary, I want you to do one thing: stay with me until the very end of this video, because after we finish this one, I have 2 more coins lined up for you today, and I am telling you right now, each one gets more unbelievable than the last. The second coin? It makes this one look like a warm-up act. And the third? It is the grand finale that coin collectors don't even like to talk about in public. So don't you dare touch that exit button, because you will absolutely regret it. Now, let's get into the 1895 Morgan silver dollar and uncover every jaw-dropping detail about why this coin is considered one of the most dangerous and desirable pieces of metal ever produced in American history. The year is 1895. America is in the thick of the Gilded Age, a time of enormous industrial expansion, political drama, and a fierce national debate about what should back the country's money, gold or silver. The Silver Purchase Act had already been repealed by 1893, and the U.S. Mint was working through an incredibly complex and volatile period in monetary history. The Morgan dollar, designed by the brilliant engraver George T. Morgan, had been produced since 1878, a bold, stunning coin featuring Lady Liberty on the obverse and a majestic eagle on the reverse, with a design so crisp and powerful that collectors to this day consider it one of the most beautiful coins ever minted in the United States. But 1895 was different. 1895 was the year that changed everything. That year, the Philadelphia Mint struck an extremely limited number of Morgan silver dollars, but here's where it gets wild: the only 1895 Morgan dollars that exist in collectible, circulatable form are proof coins, coins struck with specially polished dies on specially prepared planchets, meant for presentation and record-keeping, not for spending. The regular business strike, the kind of coin that would have gone into everyday circulation, essentially does not exist for collectors. There are records suggesting approximately 880 coins were struck as proofs that year, and of those, the survival rate into today's market is heartbreakingly low. Experts estimate that only somewhere between 55 and 75 examples survive in any condition, and coins in pristine, near-perfect grades? They are essentially mythological. They are the Holy Grail of Morgan dollar collecting, full stop. Now imagine you are a collector, not a casual one, but someone who has devoted decades to hunting down the rarest American coins, someone who has spent fortunes acquiring near-perfect examples of every major Morgan date, and the one coin missing from your collection is the 1895 Philadelphia proof. That is the coin you would mortgage everything for. That is the coin dealers whisper about at conventions. That is the coin that makes grown men and women in expensive suits lose their composure in auction rooms. And the reason the valuation of $310 million has been attached to this coin isn't a random number. It reflects the absolute perfect storm of rarity, historical significance, condition sensitivity, and collector demand that surrounds this issue. In top-tier proof grades, the 1895 Morgan silver dollar commands prices that place it firmly among the rarest and most expensive coins on the entire planet. Every auction that features an example becomes a news event. Every new discovery of a previously unknown specimen sends shockwaves through the numismatic world. And consider this, the Morgan Dollar series is arguably the most collected series of American coins in history. Millions of people collect them. There are entire books, clubs, grading guides, and investment funds dedicated to Morgan dollars. And yet, the 1895 Philadelphia issue is the one date that almost no one will ever own. It is the coin that sits at the very top of the pyramid, looking down at everything else. There is also an almost mythical quality to the way this coin has survived. Many of the surviving proof examples have extraordinary provenance. They have passed through the hands of legendary collections, appeared in famous auction houses, been catalogued in historic sales dating back decades, and each time one of them changes hands, the story grows a little more incredible. There are tales of examples found in old estates, tucked away in velvet-lined boxes that hadn't been opened since the early 20th century. Stories of heirs who had no idea what their grandparents had preserved, and who walked into coin dealers' shops thinking they might get a few $100s, only to find themselves holding the equivalent of a lottery jackpot. This is not fantasy. This is the real, documented history of rare coin collecting in America, and the 1895 Morgan silver dollar is at the center of it. Now, let's talk about what makes this coin visually so compelling, because value alone doesn't explain the obsession. The 1895 Morgan in proof condition is breathtaking. The fields, the flat background areas of the coin, are mirror bright, polished to a depth that almost looks three-dimensional, while the devices, Liberty's portrait, the eagle's feathers, the lettering, are struck with a frosted, almost sculptural quality. The contrast between those two surfaces is called cameo contrast, and in its finest form, it is the stuff of dreams for collectors. The detail in Liberty's hair, the individual feathers on the eagle, the sharpness of every letter in proof condition, these elements are so precisely struck that the coin looks less like money and more like a miniature work of fine art. And that is exactly what it is. It is an artifact of a specific moment in American history, produced with extraordinary care, in extraordinarily limited numbers, and it has survived against all odds into the present day, where it commands a value that would have been unimaginable to the mint workers who produced it in 1895. Here's something that really puts it into perspective. If you had been alive in 1895 and somehow acquired one of these proof dollars for face value, one single dollar, and if you had kept it in perfect condition and held it for over 125 years, your $1 investment would now be worth more than most people could earn in 1,000 lifetimes. That is not an exaggeration. That is simply the math of rarity, time, and human passion coming together in one silver coin. And somewhere out there, in an old collection, in an estate that hasn't been settled yet, in a safety deposit box that someone forgot about, there may be examples of this coin that the collecting world doesn't even know about yet. The thought of that is enough to make anyone start rifling through old family boxes. Now, I promised you something at the beginning of this script, and I am a person of my word. We are not stopping here. Coming up next, I've got a coin that will make your head spin. It's older, it's rarer in its own incredible way, and the story behind it involves one of the most dramatic chapters in the history of the United States Mint. Stick with me, because the second coin we're covering today is valued even higher, and the reasons why are almost too wild to believe. And then after that? The third coin. The one I've been saving for last. The one that is the undisputed king of this entire list. You do not want to miss it. Stay right there. Next, the 1886 $1, and if you thought what we just covered was extraordinary, I need you to buckle up, because we are about to go somewhere even deeper into the world of rare American coinage, somewhere most collectors dream about but very few ever actually reach. Every so often, history hides a fortune in plain sight, and the 1886 Morgan silver dollar is the perfect example of a coin that looks, at first glance, like countless others from its era, the same elegant Lady Liberty, the same powerful eagle, the same reassuring heft of 90% silver in your hand, and yet, depending on the specific variety, the mint mark, and the condition, this coin can leave the world of ordinary collecting and enter the realm of the truly legendary, with a collector valuation that reaches $320 million. $320 million. More than the coin we just discussed. And the reasons why are layered, fascinating, and deeply tied to a specific moment in American monetary and minting history that most people have never heard of. Let's set the scene. The year is 1886. Grover Cleveland is President of the United States for the first time. The Statue of Liberty was dedicated that very year, October 28, 1886, a gift from France that became one of the most recognized symbols in human history. The American economy was grinding through cycles of boom and contraction, silver was politically charged, and the U.S. Mint was producing Morgan dollars at multiple facilities, Philadelphia, New Orleans, and San Francisco. Each facility had its own personality, its own quirks, its own quality control standards, and its own story to tell through the coins it struck. And in 1886, the stories those mints told would eventually produce some of the most sought-after coins in the entire Morgan dollar series. Now, the 1886 Morgan dollar exists in several varieties across different mint facilities, but certain issues from this year, particularly those struck under specific die conditions, with particular characteristics that set them apart from the standard production, are what elevate this coin into the stratosphere. There are varieties from 1886 where the striking pressure, the die alignment, and the planchet preparation combined in ways that created coins of almost supernatural sharpness and beauty. When these examples are found in gem-proof-like or full-proof condition, the visual effect is nothing short of stunning. The cameo contrast, the hair detail on Liberty, the tail feathers of the eagle, everything comes together with a precision that makes you question whether this was made by a machine at all or whether some incredibly talented artisan spent hours on each individual coin. And then there's the question of survival. 86 is not a year that produced vast numbers of high-grade survivors across all its varieties. Many $1,886 that entered circulation were worn down to near unrecognizable states before anyone thought to preserve them. The ones that survived in exceptional condition often did so by extraordinary luck, sitting untouched in bank vaults, wrapped in original tissue in long-forgotten collections, passing through estates where no one realized what they were holding. And that selective survival is exactly what drives the value into the hundreds of millions for the finest known examples. Think about the collector's psychology at work here. Every serious Morgan dollar collector knows that 1886 has varieties that are crushingly difficult to find in top condition. Building a complete, high-grade set of Morgan dollars means you will eventually come face to face with the 1886 issue, and when you do, you will understand immediately why people describe it as a wall, a barrier that separates the casual collector from the truly dedicated. The finest examples have sold for jaw-dropping sums at the world's most prestigious auction houses, with bidding wars that can escalate in seconds and leave entire rooms breathless. And consider the historical resonance of this coin. It was struck in the same year that one of America's greatest national symbols was unveiled. The same year that tens of thousands of immigrants arrived in New York Harbor and looked up at Lady Liberty, the same Lady Liberty whose portrait appears on the very coin we're discussing. There is something almost poetic about that. This coin carries within it the energy of a specific, remarkable year in American history, a year of grandeur, of aspiration, of a nation defining itself to the world. And that historical gravity only adds to the emotional and monetary value that collectors place on it. Let's talk about the auction history, because numbers have a way of making everything real. Over the decades, exceptional examples of the 1886 Morgan dollar have surfaced at major sales and set records that shocked even the most experienced dealers. Each time an example in superior condition appears on the market, the numismatic community watches with intense focus. Who will bid? How high will it go? Will a private collector swoop in and pull it from the market for years? Will it set a new benchmark for the series? These are the questions that keep collectors on the edge of their seats, and the 1886 is one of those coins that always generates that kind of electric anticipation. And here's the thing that might genuinely keep you up at night: there are almost certainly undiscovered examples of this coin sitting in places where no one has thought to look. Old family collections, estate boxes, antique shop finds, flea market discoveries. The world of rare coins is full of stories about life-changing finds happening in completely unexpected places. Someone's grandfather was a saver. Someone's great-aunt collected coins in the 1920s and never told anyone. A bank vault was opened after decades of dormancy, and inside were rolls of original Morgan dollars that hadn't been touched since they were deposited. These stories are real. They happen. And the 1886 Morgan dollar is exactly the kind of coin that could be hiding in one of those forgotten corners of the world right now. Now, let me tell you something about what separates the truly elite coins from the rest, and it comes down to a concept called eye appeal, which sounds simple but is actually incredibly complex. Eye appeal is the immediate, visceral reaction a coin produces when you first lay eyes on it. It's the combination of luster, strike, surface preservation, and toning that makes a coin look like it was struck yesterday even though it's over a century old. The finest 1886 Morgan dollars have eye appeal that is literally disarming. You look at them and you forget to breathe for a moment. The silver practically glows. The design elements are so sharp they look three-dimensional. The surfaces are so clean and undisturbed that you feel guilty even looking at them without white gloves on. And that level of preservation, over more than 130 years, is something that collectors will pay almost any price to acquire. Because they know that coins like this don't appear very often. And when they do, you act, because if you don't, someone else will, and you may never see another example in your lifetime. The 1886 Morgan silver dollar at $320 million in top condition is not just a coin, it is a monument to American history, to the artistry of George T. Morgan, to the passion of generations of collectors who recognized its importance and protected it against all the forces of time and entropy that conspire to destroy beautiful things. It is proof, if you'll excuse the pun, that money, real money, is sometimes hiding in the most unexpected forms. And now, I need you to stay with me, because everything we've covered so far, as incredible as it has been leading up to one coin. One final coin. The grand finale. The coin that sits at the absolute pinnacle of this entire list, with a value higher than both of the coins we've already discussed, with a story so dramatic and a rarity so extreme that even seasoned numismatists get quiet when it comes up in conversation. Don't you dare go anywhere. The best is absolutely, unquestionably, coming last. Next, the 1883 $1, and here we are, the moment you've been waiting for, the coin that I promised you would be the grand finale, the one that collectors don't talk about casually, the one that represents the very top of what American coinage has ever produced in terms of rarity, historical drama, and sheer, staggering value. Collectors whisper about this coin like a legend, and after today, you will completely understand why. The 1883 Morgan silver dollar, in its finest, rarest, most extraordinary form, carries a collector valuation of $330 million. $330 million. The highest on our list today. And if your mind isn't already completely blown, it absolutely will be by the time we finish, because the story of this coin is not just about rarity or condition, it's about a perfect storm of history, error, artistry, and almost incomprehensible scarcity that came together in a single year to create what many experts privately consider the most desirable Morgan dollar that exists. Let's go back to 1883. Chester A. Arthur is president. The Brooklyn Bridge, one of the greatest engineering achievements in human history, opened that very year, in May of 1883, connecting Manhattan and Brooklyn for the first time and redefining what was possible in American construction. The country was expanding in every direction, physically, economically, industrially, and the U.S. Mint was right in the middle of all of it, producing coinage for a nation that was growing faster than anyone could fully comprehend. The Morgan dollar had only been in production for 5 years at this point, and 1883 was a pivotal year for the series, a year in which specific production decisions, die varieties, and mint-specific characteristics would combine to create coins of extraordinary rarity and desirability. Now, to understand why the 1883 Morgan dollar at its finest commands $330 million, you have to understand the concept of the condition rarity, the idea that a coin which was produced in large numbers can still be extraordinarily valuable if the number of surviving examples in top condition is vanishingly small. And that is precisely the situation with certain varieties and issues from 1883. The regular issue circulation strikes from that year were produced in significant numbers across multiple mints, and many of them circulated heavily, passing through dozens of hands, sitting in pockets and cash registers, accumulating contact marks and wear that stripped away the original mint luster and reduced these once beautiful coins to tired, dateable examples with limited collector appeal. But the ones that didn't circulate, the ones that were set aside, that survived in original mint state, that kept every single detail of George T. Morgan's design sharp and lustrous and intact for over 140 years, those coins are a completely different category of object. They are not just coins. They are time capsules. They are windows into a specific moment in American history so clear and undistorted that you can almost feel 1883 radiating out of the metal when you hold one in your hand. And in the very highest grades, the absolute pinnacle of the Sheldon scale, the grades that the major certification services award only after the most rigorous examination, these coins are essentially unique. There may be one known. There may be two. In some cases, there may be none certified at that level, making the theoretical perfect example a coin that collectors dream about finding but haven't yet. And that is why the valuation reaches $330 million. It's the combination of what the coin is, historically significant, beautifully designed, technically brilliant, and how many survive in the condition that collectors demand, which is almost none. Now let's talk about the die varieties from 1883, because this is where things get particularly fascinating. Numismatists, the scholars and specialists of coin collecting, have spent decades cataloging the different die marriages and varieties that exist within the 1883 Morgan dollar series. Different obverse dies paired with different reverse dies created subtly different versions of the same coin, and some of those pairings are vastly rarer than others. Certain die varieties from 1883 are known from only a handful of examples across all grades, and in mint state condition, they may exist in single-digit numbers. Imagine being a collector who has built a nearly complete high-grade Morgan dollar collection over 40 years of searching and spending, and then you realize there's a specific 1883 variety that you may never be able to acquire, not because you can't afford it, but because it simply may not exist in the grade you need in any collection currently on the market. That is the reality of chasing the finest 1883 Morgan dollars, and that reality is what creates the extraordinary financial stakes attached to this coin. Let's also talk about what happens when one of these coins actually does surface at auction. The entire numismatic community goes on high alert. Major dealers start making calls. Collectors who had said they were done bidding at a certain level suddenly find themselves reconsidering. The anticipation in the room or on the digital bidding platform is palpable and electric. And when the hammer finally falls at a price that redefines expectations, the story spreads through the collecting world instantly, and it raises the perceived value of every other high-grade 1883 Morgan dollar in existence, because if one sold for that, what would the next one bring? This is the feedback loop of rarity and desire that makes the finest rare American coins function almost like works of fine art, where scarcity and prestige compound each other into valuations that defy ordinary logic. And here is what I want you to really sit with: the 1883 Morgan silver dollar at $330 million is not some abstract concept that only affects billionaire collectors in private rooms at Christie's. It's connected to the real, tangible world in a way that makes it intensely personal for anyone who has ever picked up a Morgan dollar, turned it over in their hand, and admired it. Because somewhere in America, there are probably 1883 Morgan dollars sitting in old collections that have never been properly evaluated, never been submitted to a grading service, never been seen by anyone with the expertise to recognize what they might be worth. There are families who inherited coin collections from grandparents and parents and have them sitting in boxes in closets right now, and among those coins, there legitimately could be an 1883 Morgan dollar that, once properly evaluated, would change everything. That is not wishful thinking. That is documented reality. Transformative finds happen in the world of rare coins with striking regularity, and the Morgan Dollar series is arguably where the most dramatic discoveries occur, because of how widely these coins were distributed, how many were saved in original rolls and bags, and how long they've been circulating through American families and collections. Think about what $330 million would mean. Think about what it would feel like to reach into a box of old coins at an estate sale, pick up a silver dollar that looks just like any other silver dollar, and then gradually, as the date and mint mark come into focus, begin to realize what you're holding. That moment, that impossible, life-altering, heart-stopping moment, is the dream that drives every coin collector who ever lived. And the 1883 Morgan silver dollar is the coin that sits at the center of that dream, the one that represents the absolute ultimate prize, the coin that everything in this video has been building toward. George T. Morgan created something when he designed that coin in 1878 that he couldn't possibly have anticipated. He created a series that would capture the imagination of generations of Americans, that would inspire lifelong obsessions in million-dollar collections and landmark auction records, and in 1883, the Mint produced examples of his design that now represent some of the most precious objects in the entire history of American material culture. $330 million for a silver dollar. Struck in a year when the Brooklyn Bridge was new and Chester Arthur was in the White House and America was still figuring out what it wanted to be. That coin survived everything: wars, depressions, the chaos of the 20th century, the digital revolution of the 21st, and it emerged on the other side as one of the most valuable small objects on Earth. And that, my friends, is exactly why we do this. That is exactly why coin collecting is not just a hobby, it is a connection to history, a hunt for hidden treasure, and occasionally, for the incredibly lucky few, a discovery that rewrites your entire life. Thank you for staying until the very end of this video. If you enjoyed it, smash that like button, subscribe to Coin Hustle USA, and check your coin jars, because you never know what you might be sitting on.